Most people you know are living a lifestyle they absolutely cannot afford. You probably feel this every time someone you know casually pops over to Europe like it's Costco. But the common explanation, they must just make more money, is almost never the right one. There are forces at play here that make modern adulthood feel like an ongoing group project where nobody admits who's actually doing the work. And if you don't understand those forces, you end up comparing your reality to everyone else's highlight reel and slowly losing your grip on math. So like and subscribe if you want to stay informed about why everything feels financially unreasonable, including your own decisions. Because this video is going to explain what's really happening beneath all these suspiciously polished lifestyles. Chapter 1. Parental financial support and subsidized lifestyles. It's a little suspicious that so many adults appear financially independent despite behaving exactly like people who are not. Once you start looking at the numbers, you realize half of parents with adult kids are quietly wiring money to them like a subscription service they forgot to cancel. And it's not small stuff. It's an average of nearly $1,500 a month, which is more than most people willingly spend on anything besides rent and emotional support DoorDash. What makes it even stranger is that many parents aren't doing this because they're overflowing with cash. They're doing it while quietly dissolving their own retirement plans like sugar and hot coffee. It creates this odd illusion where someone seems to be making it on their own. But their financial ecosystem is essentially powered by a parent who's pretending everything is fine while Googling, "Can I retire at 92?" And if you've ever wondered why adulthood feels like a group project you didn't sign up for, this is one of the core reasons. Half the class is getting help on the side. Which sounds manageable until you notice what happens next. Chapter 2. Multi-generational living and reduced expenses. Imagine walking into someone's independent adult apartment only to realize it's actually their childhood bedroom with better lighting. About a third of adults aged 18 to 34 are still living with their parents, which is basically the economy's way of saying, no, you may not move out, but you may repaint. The financial math is brutally simple. If you remove rent, groceries, and the existential tax of opening your mail, suddenly your bank account looks healthier than your coping mechanisms. And culturally, we pretend this is some shocking trend, even though half the planet has been doing multi-generational living forever without writing think pieces about it. What makes it funny, in a dark sitcom without the laugh track way, is that people often judge their own progress without remembering they're competing with someone whose biggest expense is maybe a scented candle. Meanwhile, the parents are pretending not to notice the mysteriously disappearing leftovers while secretly enjoying having another person to blame for the Wi-Fi slowing down. That would be fine if it stopped there. Chapter 3. Housing costs and perceived wealth. It's bold to assume someone with a nice house is rich when, statistically, they might just be really good at ignoring their own budget. Many first-time buyers are spending 40% or more of their gross income on a mortgage, which sounds manageable until you remember gross income is the number your paycheck shows before life subtracts everything fun. By the time taxes, insurance, and that mysterious other deductions line finish feasting, the actual housing burden feels less like a financial decision and more like a long-term dare. And yet, from the outside, the house still looks impressive. Big kitchen, maybe a patio, possibly a plant they haven't killed yet, all while the owner is calculating whether they can afford an avocado today. The irony is that these homes aren't signs of wealth. They're signs of someone committing to a lifestyle where the walls look nice, but the bank account is practicing intermittent fasting. I'm not judging, because if a bank ever approved me for that size loan, I would absolutely assume they meant someone else and still sign the papers. The problem is, this isn't happening in isolation. Chapter 4. Car payments and lifestyle appearance. Picture someone rolling up in a shiny new SUV, looking like they have their life together, while their bank account is quietly hyperventilating. New cars are one of the fastest ways people create the illusion of being financially upgraded, mostly because 85% of them are financed and 20% come with a monthly payment that looks like rent for a small studio apartment. A $1,000 car payment doesn't sound terrible until you realize that for someone making $60,000 a year, that's over 20% of their income being spent to impress people who will forget what they drove 5 minutes later. And that's before you add insurance, gas, maintenance, and the emotional toll of pretending you understand what any of the warning lights mean. From the outside, though, it still works. A nice car broadcasts confidence in a way that conveniently hides the spreadsheet gymnastics happening behind the scenes. If I'm being honest, I too have justified a car purchase by saying something like, well, it's safer, as if the car is personally committed to my well-being and not just extremely good at draining my wallet. Which sounds dramatic until you see how this pressure stacks with everything else. Chapter 5. Income levels versus lifestyle expectations. Here's an uncomfortable fact. Most people are trying to live a successful adult life on an income that was never designed for that storyline. The median full-time income is just over $60,000 before deductions, which feels fine until you remember that your bank account never actually sees that number. Kind of like how you technically own your phone, but still fear your carrier more than your landlord. Once housing, car payments, and the bare minimum subscription bundle required to participate in society kick in, that salary shrinks faster than your enthusiasm for checking your credit score. The real plot twist is that many lifestyles that look high-end are just people allocating all their limited resources into one shiny thing and then quietly hoping no unexpected expenses occur for the next 8 years. You see it in the mental gymnastics people do. I can afford this if nothing else happens forever, which is a budgeting strategy only endorsed by optimism and denial. I'd love to say I'm above this, but I've definitely justified a purchase by thinking, well, future me will figure it out, as if future me is some kind of financially literate superhero. And this is where it quietly gets worse. Chapter 6. Net worth realities across age groups. It's a little alarming how calm everyone seems while walking around with net worth numbers that look like typos. For adults under 35, the median net worth is $39,000, which sounds fine until you realize that number usually includes a used car, a mattress someone swears is basically new, and maybe a retirement account with the emotional stability of a houseplant. Even by ages 35 to 44, the median only reaches $135,000. And for 45 to 54, it's around $247,000. Numbers that feel impressive right up until you remember most of it is trapped inside a house they may or may not actually enjoy living in. It creates this strange dynamic where people are technically worth something on paper, but in real life they're debating whether they can buy name brand cereal this week. And the structure of it all encourages a kind of delusion, where someone with a 401k they haven't checked since 2018 can confidently announce they're doing pretty well, mostly because no one else wants to admit they're in the same boat. I'm no exception. If you ask me my net worth right now, I'd also give you the number that sounds best, not the one that includes my impulse purchases or the haunting presence of student loans. Which sounds oddly harmless, until you notice how this ties into another illusion most people don't question. Chapter 7. Investment participation and its limitations. It's impressive how many people claim to be in the market when their entire portfolio could probably fit on a receipt. Around 62% of adults have some involvement with stocks or retirement accounts, which sounds like we're all financially competent until you realize that involvement often means they once bought a single share of something because a Reddit comment told them to. Meanwhile, 38% of adults have no investments at all, not because they hate money, but because every month they perform the same ritual of choosing between contributing to an IRA or simply surviving. Even among the people who are invested, the pattern is hilariously predictable. They start strong for 3 months, forget their login info, and then confidently tell others they're letting it ride, like that was the plan all along. Most portfolios are not these robust wealth-building machines. They're more like digital time capsules of past enthusiasm and current avoidance. And yes, I'm absolutely including myself here. I once opened my retirement account, saw the number, and immediately closed the tab like I had accidentally walked in on it changing. That would be fine if the performance everyone brags about actually matched the lifestyle they're presenting. Chapter 8. The role of selective sharing and hidden trade-offs. Have you ever noticed how people will post a picture of their vacation, but never the part where they checked their bank balance and briefly stopped breathing? Visible lifestyle signals are basically curated illusions, carefully edited to hide the debt, stress, and creative accounting supporting them from below, like wrinkled stagehands. Someone might look effortlessly successful, but behind the scenes they're working extra hours, skipping savings, or bargaining with themselves in the grocery store like every item is part of a hostage negotiation. And thanks to social media's highlight-only format, you never see the trade-offs, the overtime shifts, the arguments about money, or the moment they realize their fun budget has the lifespan of a fruit fly. The worst part is how normal it feels. The brain looks at everyone else's filtered achievements and calmly decides you must be the only one experiencing the blooper reel. I'd love to pretend I'm immune, but I've definitely posted something nice while strategically cropping out evidence that I eat dinner over the sink like a Victorian ghost. And this would all be just mildly embarrassing if it didn't quietly distort how we judge our own progress next. Chapter 9. Personal progress versus external comparison. It's strange how you can make genuine financial progress and still feel like you're failing just because someone else uploaded a photo of a countertop made of a material you can't pronounce. Most people overlook their own wins because they don't look cinematic. Paying off a credit card, choosing not to buy a car with a payment shaped like a mortgage, or finally organizing a budget that doesn't immediately burst into flames. These small decisions add up in the background, slowly, quietly, like the world's most boring superpower. Except you never give yourself credit because you're too busy staring at someone else's highlight reel. What makes it worse is how sneaky comparison is. It convinces you that your steady progress doesn't count unless it comes with mood lighting and an inspirational caption. Meanwhile, the truth is that most people you're comparing yourself to are building their effortless lifestyle on trade-offs you can't see and financial support you're not supposed to know about. I fall for it too. One glance at someone else's organized pantry and I'll forget every responsible choice I've made in the past 6 months. And that tension between what's real and what looks real is where the rest of the story quietly starts to reveal itself. In the end, most of what looks like financial confidence is just people arranging their lives in ways that make sense on paper, and then hoping the paper doesn't blow away. You're not actually behind, you're just comparing your unedited life to other people's special effects. And even when you understand all of this, it doesn't magically make the numbers behave. It just changes the angle you're looking at them from. The quiet part is that everyone is making trade-offs they don't talk about, and you've probably been doing the same without realizing it counts. And once you see how these patterns stack, it's hard not to notice how much pressure comes from things we treat as normal. It leaves you with this odd mix of clarity and inconvenience, like seeing the budget version of adulthood behind the display model. And naturally, once you notice that, you start wondering about the one expense that pretends to be harmless while quietly taking up a whole room in your financial house. That's usually when people start asking what their car payment is actually costing them, beyond the part that shows up on the bill.